Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's having a great day. A little cloudy, but nonetheless a nice day here in Knoxville. Hope everybody's safe and wherever you're working, getting a lot done. Like we've had town hall meetings before, I want this to be interactive. I know it's a little more challenging with the Zoom, especially since I can't see all of you. But I'm eager for you to send some notes to me and some questions. I think Melissa today is going to fill in for Tiffany and then relay questions to me when I finish. I thought I touched base with you on just 5 things to get us started, give you an update on a few things, but it's not meant to be holistic. I'm sure there'll be a lot of other things on your mind and look forward to discussing other things as well. But first, I wanted to just give you a brief update on our executive committee meeting that we had a week ago Friday. It was a very productive meeting. One of the most important parts of the meeting by far was that the executive committee unanimously approved supporting Ryan Sinnett as our new general counsel. I'm incredibly proud of Ryan and the job that he's done during the period of time that I've got to work with him. He's been at the University of Tennessee, as most of you know, for 15 years. He's done an exceptional job. I was impressed with Ryan from the beginning. But I want to make sure that others shared my opinion. So I reached out to all the chancellors. Each one of them enthusiastically supported him. I reached out to all my executive team. They all enthusiastically supported him. I reached out to many of his colleagues and peers who were also very excited about the possibility of him being a general counsel, and then some of our board members that have been working with him. And it was unanimous. And so I'm really proud and excited to congratulate Ryan as our new general counsel. That was a big event. Also at the executive committee meeting, we talked about a couple of other things. One of the challenges we have this summer is that, as you know, all the students across the system are going to be taking their classes online. And some of our campuses were wanting to reduce fees for online classes. Like UT Martin wanted to charge $13 per credit hour or less for an online class. And it's going to be a very competitive market. So we got together with the board and said, let's just empower the chancellors to do whatever they want to do when it comes to reducing any particular fees. Most of the fees will be minor, but every dollar matters to our families and our students right now. And so the board gave all of our chancellors the latitude to do that. And then a fun thing, within the contract that we are negotiating with the county and TVA for the tower downtown, the county and TVA gave us permission to officially change the name of the tower to the UT Tower. So from now on, we will no longer call it the TVA Tower. It will be the UT Tower. It's our tower, even though we will be cohabitating with the Knox County School District as well. So that was great. We'll talk a little bit more about the UT Tower in a moment. A second thing I wanted to give you a quick update on was with regards to all the advisory boards at all the campuses. Each of them have approved their budget going forward and make the recommendations to me for what they would like us to do on tuition. And each of the advisory boards, the Health Science Center, Martin, Chattanooga, and Knoxville, have all recommended a 0 tuition increase for our students this coming year. And I wholeheartedly endorse that. Our budget's going to be challenging. We still don't know exactly what the state's going to do. The numbers that they got back in from revenue for the state and for the month of April were not good, but they were expected to be not good. We're really eager to see what May's will be. May will be a bellwether month, depending on how revenues go for the state. May will have a big impact on how they view what budget cuts they might make going forward. But in a conversation with our chancellors and some of our board members over the last week or so, we've got a strong conviction, not necessarily 100%, but a strong conviction to maintain that 0 tuition increase. As difficult as it will be for us, we believe that we have the reserves and the flexibility to be able to adapt over this very difficult time, even in spite of what we would imagine would be a small, if any, budget cut from the state. But we think that the most important thing is to make sure we're serving the students and their families and keeping our costs as affordable as possible, or tuition as affordable as possible. So that was a recommendation from the advisory boards, and we're looking toward trying to do that as best we can. A third area that I did want to mention to you was with regards to the UT Tower. So Austin Oaks, with David Miller's help, is moving forward with our planning. they do something, a term that I hadn't heard before, but a bubble diagram. The bubble diagram just basically shows the bubble of my office and the communications teams, the CFO's teams, all the different teams and what floors they're on, and roughly what space each of those teams are going to need. So it doesn't go into details on desks or office layout per se, but just shows you where the adjacencies are. And I know Austin and David and I and the rest of the senior staff have reviewed it and tweaked it a little bit. We hope to have some more detailed documents within the next week or so, but it's coming along. Just the headline here is that they're making progress. We're on schedule, and the Ryan and our legal team are finishing up the details of the contract, and I'm hopeful that will be signed soon. But the contracting and the legal side isn't slowing us down, and so it's going to be pretty exciting over the next month or so to start seeing some of the actual details worked out. But we're very excited about that. I will mention, because I know this was the question last time, we have a lot of conversations with the architects and designers and furniture manufacturers, and as you would imagine, there's a lot of conversations now around how do you create an even safer workspace. And we believe that we can create a space in this new facility that's even safer than the one, or far safer than the one we have now, with regards to the spreads of virus and infectious diseases. No matter what space we have, though, you can't design in for bad behavior. A lot of it's going to depend on our behavior and how we adhere to the new policies that we've already recommended. So no matter how we organize ourselves, our behavior is going to determine our safety. And so we're going to have to make sure that we're all responsible for ourselves and our fellow coworkers. Also, today, you may have seen already an email from me sharing with you the work of a great task force we had across the state, looking at how students can safely re-enter campuses. We have an infectious disease expert named John McCullers from the Health Science Center that headed up a task force. Each campus had a representative. The UT system had Mike Gregory representing us on the task force. This group had worked for the last 4 weeks looking at the work of each of the task force on each campus. I should remind you that each campus has their own task force looking at their very specific need, because each campus is different. You know, the Health Science Center have graduate students and no dorms. UT Knoxville has 30,000 students and 7,000 students living in dorms. So each one has their own unique environment and situation. So all of them were working together on their plans, and they had a representative from each of their teams working with John McCullers and combining the best practices from across the state, and then compiling them into a set of guidelines, broad guidelines that we all can adhere to or try to follow. So that was published this morning. I had a memo going out around that accompanied it. A headline, if you don't read the 9 pages in the guideline, don't read my memo even, I think the key phrase that we want to keep reiterating is that this will be a new normal, and that we will be managing risk. And by both those two things, we mean new normal is that we're not going to be ever going back to exactly what we had before, but that'll be good, because we will be able to not just reduce the dangers from this particular virus, but from former viruses, flus, and maybe future viruses that come around. So I think the new normal is a good thing, but it'll be different. As we want to remind all of our students when they think, and their families when they're coming back to our campus this fall, we want it to be a great experience for them, but it won't be the exact same experience that we've had before. And I think in some ways we can make it better, but it will be different. And then with regards to the second half of that phrase, managing risk, we can't eliminate risk. I've seen some comments from some say, well, we can't ever leave our house until all risks are gone. Well, you know, when you come to a university, there's always been risk. There's risk of suicide and flu and lots of other things. In addition, there will be risk to this particular virus coming back. So we cannot guarantee we can eliminate all risk, but we can manage it, and we'll be doing everything we can using every best practice that we know to manage that. So read through the guidelines. It's a relatively quick read, an important one, and it references that each of the campuses are going to release their detailed guidelines, and those get into a lot more granular detail around moving into dorms, testing wastewater, a lot of things that we can do around around testing. Each campus will do testing maybe a little differently depending on their situation, and be doing testing with faculty and staff as well. We the University of Tennessee Knoxville's recommendations, their task force report to be published sometime today. Could be tomorrow, but my most recent information is that I think it'll be toward the end of today. And then in addition, the UT Health Science Center has already released theirs about 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks from now, I guess around the first week of June, UT Martin and UT Chattanooga will be releasing theirs. There's not a real urgency to be the first one out. I think sometimes some of the faculty and staff and students are eager to hear what they're going to be, so there's a bit of pressure to release. But the fact is that every single day we learn more. One of the things that we're going to do is make sure that we're constantly listening and monitoring new information. We've got Dr. McCullers and others that are helping us filter through the noise and really narrow it down to the things that are going to be the most impactful. But we're going to continue to monitor what new developments there are and constantly iterate and change our policies for the better as we continue to learn more. Obviously a very fluid situation. And then finally, I just want to say, hope you're doing well. I get to see some of you here at the office as of March or May 4th. We welcomed you back to the offices if you felt like you needed to come, but it was on a volunteer basis. We wanted to maintain no more than 25% density. I didn't check this week. Last week, I talked with a few of my direct reports, and they were saying they were estimating we're at 10%. So we didn't really go through and do a head count, but I think we're doing well in continuing to get our work done from our homes or away from the office. But some are coming in. It's always great seeing those. We've got a protocol that Brian Dickens has shared with you about when you come back to work, and those are still in place. And so I hope that when you do decide to come visit us here, that you go back and review all those protocols. I also know that Brian has continue to do some surveys to find out how you're doing. And as I mentioned the last time we had a town hall meeting, it was really helpful for me to see that I'd be reminded that we're all doing differently. Working from home doesn't mean the same thing for everybody. As I said last time, I had it great in that I had my own little private office and I'm an empty nester. So I was extraordinarily productive and I got to see my wife 3 times a day, which normally doesn't happen. But for many, that are maybe a single mom with children that would normally have been in elementary school, that they're having to now homeschool, is a completely different situation. And so one of the things I continue to remind my team, and hopefully you're finding this to be true, that we're going to be supportive and compassionate and do everything we can to help you continue to be productive as you have been, but also stay safe as well. With that, I'm going to stop and turn it over to Melissa and to all of you for any questions you have. Melissa?
Thank you, Randy. We do have a question. When might we expect to start seeing designs and drawings for the interior of UT Tower?
Great question. I haven't got to see any myself yet. I did have a meeting on something else with somebody from Barber McMurray, our architects, and I may be misquoting, but I think we may see something more details in the next 30 days or so. But I probably should be deferring to David Miller and Austin Oakes on that question. Actually, I will do this. I will ask David, who I'm sure is on the line, in Monday Notes, which will be coming up just a few days from now, to add a little bullet about a rough timeline on when we all get to start seeing a bit more details on the actual conceptual layouts.
Thank you. We have another question. With all the expertise we're developing around reopening campuses, can or should we offer that expertise as consulting through the Institute for Public Service? I know my kid's school is struggling with figuring out how to reopen.
That's a great question. I'm assuming that's coming from somebody from IPS. I'm seeing Herb tomorrow. If that wasn't a Herb question, but I think it's a great idea, and I think we should. I think there's some ways in which we can possibly tailor it, both for maybe through IPS, through MTAS, CTAS, to work up with our school systems across the state, and in addition with CIS, with businesses as well. Everything that we've learned is obviously, and we're recommending, is obviously public, so anybody can borrow our information. But it's would probably be helpful for maybe our folks at IPS to maybe tailor some of that information specifically for businesses and school districts. So we can absolutely do that. Great idea.
Okay, our next question. What is the expectation for moving into the tower? That's a pretty broad question, but maybe any insights you have on that.
Well, okay, so I'm going to share my expectation, and I'm always very optimistic and ambitious, and so I think that's probably not new news to anybody listening. So I could err on the aggressive side, but my hope is that late fall, maybe as early as November or December, that we'll start moving in the first floor. They're going to move in 4 by 4. We physically can't move everybody in the building all at the same time anyway. So the plan is every 3 weeks to move in a floor. We're going to start with the 12th floor. I'll be up on the 12th floor. We'll start on the 12th floor, then the 11th, and so on until we get down to the 7th floor. The 7th floor will be occupied by the UT Foundation, UT Research Foundation, and potentially with Oak Ridge National Labs. So somewhere between the 1st of December and the end of winter, that 12-week period there, I would imagine most of us that are on this call will be have moved in. But I will ask again for maybe David to add this. The thing I like about this, he's on mute, so he can't defend himself. So I'll just say, David, please put as much information as you can, as much detail on that as you can in the Monday notes, both about when we get to look at documents and what our target is for moving in. There's a lot of variables. I will give this benefit of the doubt to Austin and David and the team that's working on this. There's some variables that we don't know and may not be able to control. Furniture manufacturers that are mostly in Michigan, a lot of them have been shut down. There's a few long lead items, like some of the walls, I'm told, will take these glass partitions. For whatever reason, they can take like 4 months to manufacture on a good day. So there's some gating items like that we still have to determine how many we need, get them designed, and get them produced. So there's some challenges that we can't control. But I do know that our architects and everybody that's working on this is working as fast and as hard as they possibly can to get us moving as soon as possible.
Next question is also regarding UT Tower. When might we know which floor we are on?
We should be able to do that within, I think maybe within the next week. I guarantee within the next 30 days, but maybe even within the next week. And it's conceivable that we'll be able to share that bubble diagram that kind of shows where all the again, doesn't have any furniture or desks, but just which floor and what section of the floor communications is, for example, what section of the floor and what floor treasury is. Those I think we can share pretty soon. I'll encourage our team to share that as soon as we get the final draft. I know they've been like 3 different drafts and they're still doing a little tweaking. So we want to make sure we get it right, but I think that's something we should be able to share really soon.
Thank you, Randy. One more question on the tower, which I might be able to help with. Do we have a website for all the tower move information? Yes, we do. We are currently building that site out and should have it live very shortly.
Oh, fantastic. So I didn't know that. Thank you for that question, and thank you for that answer, Melissa. And maybe some of the things that I've just referenced that David would put in Monday notes, you can also put on this website too.
Fantastic. Changing gears to the fall semester, question is, has there been any discussion of accelerating the fall semester? Some colleges and universities are discussing canceling fall break so the semester can end by Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I think I don't want to speak for the campuses, but because they're all looking through those options, but in the guidelines, it's something that is suggested for consideration. Each campus is going to have to make their own decision, but I know it has been a topic at UT Knoxville and others. And so again, I'm going to allow them to make that decision, that final decision, but yeah, it's definitely a interesting and sounds like a pretty good consideration.
Okay, we have some questions regarding phase 2 and phase 3 re-entry for UT system employees. Do we have any time estimates around when phase 2 and phase 3 will begin?
You know, I see that Brian Dickens is on the call, and so you guys don't have to listen to me the entire time. I don't know, Brian, if you're available, that might be good to defer to you on that one if you're willing and able to address it.
Yeah, thank you, Randy. This is Brian. So yes, our phase 2, we have intentionally followed local guidance with the 28-day between phase 1 and phase 2, as well as phase 3. And so that would put us right in the first week of June to begin the discussions of phase 2 reentry. And then again, if things don't change, a 28-day between phase 2 and phase 3 as well. And so that's what we're looking at this point. Again, we're monitoring trend lines and other data to help us determine whether we're still on track for that weekly.
Thank you, Brian. Something I think many of you might, if you're watching the local news, Mayor Jacobs is supposed to be making an announcement today at 12:30 about, I think, an acceleration of some of the openings within the county. So we'll stand by and watch that. That may or may not have any influence on what we do, but it'll be definitely interesting to see what he reports. Some good news is, I'm sure you read this in the local news, I'm on the UT Medical Center board as well. But the good news is, at least the last 3 or 4 days, I haven't seen it for today, but there are nobody in the hospitals, and it was that with the virus, which is one of our objectives, was to make sure that we had plenty of capacity, and we've done, I think, a great job of getting our hospitals prepared. In fact, most of the hospitals now in the Knoxville area are now reopening for elective surgeries because they just get nurses back to work. You know, our nurses are, I think we should be celebrating them, but at the same time, they're all very frustrated right now because they haven't been able to come to work. So hopefully we'll be able to get the hospitals back to the full staff again here soon as well. But for Knox County, at least, we seem to be in pretty good shape.
I would just remind folks as well that we do have a website set up for all the latest updates regarding coronavirus and as it impacts the University of Tennessee. It can be found at tennessee.edu/coronavirus. At this time, we have no pending questions. One just came in. Question, are flexible work schedules / work from home being considered going forward?
Yes, absolutely. I think, flexible work schedules and working from home, since I've been here, starting 16, 17 months ago, have been considered and being encouraged. It's going to continue to be up to each supervisor, but from my past experience, both at my company and working with the state with economic and community development, I found that many of our associates could be really effective working from home, some or all the time. When we started laying out the new UT Tower, one of the considerations was how many people could work just partially in the tower, not have a full-time desk, but have a hot spot that they could come into, when they wanted to come in. And so that's still a major consideration. I'm personally encouraging it, but again, it's up to each supervisor. Every job and every team is a little different, so they know better than I how they need to work to be the most effective. But from my perspective, something that we want to continue to encourage as much as possible. And I think many of you are proving that you can be very effective working remotely now. And so it's something that I think we're looking at Lemonade. I think one of the lemonades from the last 6 to 8 weeks has been that we've proven that we can be effective in many places, and work is something that you do, not a place you go.
Any other questions?
Well, if there's no more questions, as you all know, anytime you want to reach me, you've got my number. You can email me at randy@tennessee.edu. I look forward to continue to stay in touch, and I look forward to seeing many of you back at one of our facilities sometime over the next few weeks or month. And hope you continue to stay safe, stay happy, and stay productive. Thanks so much, everybody.